What are you waiting for? Why aren't you doing that? And hopefully we'll be able to discover reasons and discover a way for you to actually go after that which you're most passionate about and what you really want to be doing with your life. So I want to ask you another question, and please, if you want, you can answer by unmuting or maybe just raising your hand, clicking on the raise hand icon so that we can see how many of you, by raise of hand or just saying yes, how many of you want to be good at what you do? Jimmy's putting his thumbs up. Great. Dave, yes, putting his hands up. Yeah. Great. Good. Okay, thank you guys. Thank you for your honesty. So you want to be good at what you do. All right. How many of you want to be great at what you do? Okay, so maybe we want to change our answer now. Okay. Yes, yeah. I'm just checking on the chat here. I see some people have put some things on the chat. Okay, where's the chat here? There we go. Okay. So maybe we're changing our answers a little bit. We want to be great at what we do. Fantastic. There's a bit of a difference, isn't it? As Jim Collins said, good is the enemy of great. Why settle for good when you know that you can be great at what you do? Just like the great man that I showed you, Usain Bolt, one of the fastest man in the history of athletics. So again, I'm going to ask you the question, what are you waiting for? Are you waiting for the right time? Are you waiting for the right place, the right weather, the right amount of money, the right education, the right partner, the right circumstance, the right country, the right government, or even the right health? But let me tell you, do you know what the right is? It's an excuse for not taking charge of your life. It's just shifting the blame onto whatever the circumstance or the situation or the person may be. You know what? Things aren't just quite right. How often do we find ourselves saying that? If only things were a bit different, then I'd be able to do X, Y, Z in my life, whatever the case may be. But what that is just an excuse for not taking that leap, for not taking that risk, for not making that decision to going out and doing that. So why is that? And it might not be nice to hear, but it really comes down to fear. We are afraid. And what is fear? Remember, we've discussed this before. It's false evidence appearing real. It's just things that we think up in our minds that are preventing us from making those decisions on doing the things that we know that we should be doing with our life and that we want to be doing with our life. But something is preventing that. And that something is fear. So courage, remember, and this is one of the greatest descriptions that I've ever heard of courage, is that courage is not the absence of fear, it is the conquest of it. It's the overcoming of that fear. So what I mean by that is that whenever we are confronted with a choice or whatever the case may be, and when we have this opportunity that we know that we would love to grab with both hands, but then all those doubts and those questions like, oh, is it the right time? Do I have the right amount of money? Do I have the right resources? Whatever the case may be, these doubts, these fears start coming into our mind. And that's always going to be there. That fear is never going to go away. What we need to do is develop a courage, a confidence in ourselves so powerful that it overcomes that fear. And that's what we need to start developing right now. So how do we go about doing that? Remember that success is something you attract by the person that you become. We all know about the law of attraction. And the law of attraction doesn't state that we cannot just sit and hope that things will just fall into our laps and the things that we want will fall into our laps. What it means is because we are thinking in a certain way and because we become that type of person, then we attract that into our lives, meaning that we go out and we search for that. Remember, you see the world through your own eyes. You see the world the way that you are. And when you change, the world changes as well. So what happens is, if you're not getting the things in your life, you're not attracting that's what you want in your life, if you're not having the type of life that you want, well, then maybe you need to look in the mirror and say, perhaps there are some things that I need to change about myself. I need to become better or to become different. So let me ask you this. We all said earlier, I asked you the question, do you want to be good or do you want to be great? Okay. Now, what constitutes that great life? We all said, okay, we want to be great at what we do. So what constitutes that? Well, the first law of economics states that you will be paid for bringing value to the marketplace, for bringing value to the marketplace. Now, as my father said, he said, the more valuable you are, the more marketable you are. If you think about it, what is the number one brand in the world currently? Does anybody know? I would like to share that. What is the number one brand in the world currently? Are you all busy Googling quickly? Anybody know or want to take a guess on what they think is the number one brand in the world is today? Yeah, no, that's fine. That's fine. If you're not too sure, I can share it with you. It's Apple at the moment. Apple is the number one brand in the world today. Now, the wonderful thing about Apple is that everybody knows Apple, right? We are all aware of Apple because of the brand power that they have. And they are extremely marketable. When you ask, especially with the youngsters today, what phone they want, they all want an iPhone. Or they all want an iPad, a tablet from Apple, or the MacBook, or whatever the case may be. Apple is a very powerful brand. Now, does anyone know what the number one brand was in Africa in 1996? Any guesses? Okay, no, that's fine. Hopefully we'll be a little bit talkative a bit later on, but that's fine. The number one brand in Africa in 1996 was Nelson Mandela. See, what happens is you are a brand. How powerful is your brand? Because when your brand is extremely powerful and valuable, you are extremely marketable anywhere in the world. In other words, when you have an extremely valuable brand, you'll probably be headhunted from all different organizations because of the value that your brand has, the value that they know that you'll bring into their organization. So that's the power of developing our value. And as the first law of economics says, that we will be paid according to the value that we bring into the marketplace. So this is how we go about developing our value. The first thing is that we need to bring value. And in order to bring value, we need to be valuable. So therefore, it takes time to bring value to the marketplace. So we do not get paid for time, we get paid for value. So therefore, we need to spend our time becoming valuable. We no longer, and organizations are moving away from saying that, oh, you need to be in the office from 8 to 5 or 9 to 5, whatever the case may be, and then we'll pay you your salary according to that. It's no longer, they're looking at the value that you bring into that organization, and then you are paid according to that value. So if you find that you are not getting what you feel that you should be getting, well, then perhaps you need to increase your value and spend your time, instead of just spending your time in the office, maybe on Facebook or YouTube, as many people waste their time doing those things and those types of activities. Instead, use your time increasing your value. You'll be far more beneficial by doing that. So if you want to earn more, you have to change your value. Some people say they are waiting for a raise. Well, how long is that going to take? Also, some people say they will go on strike for more pay. And we see this happening all the time. But the catch is, you cannot get rich by demand. You get rich by performance, by the things that you put in. That's what happens. Whatever we put in is what you get out. Those how you reap those rewards. Is how much effort, how much work, how much sacrifice you're willing to put in to that, into increasing your value. So why is it important for you to be valuable? Well, one of the reasons is that it will create unprecedented opportunities for you. Next, today there is so much competition and opposition. It's a global market out there. People can order things and receive services from all around the world. So you have to make sure that you are extremely valuable and competitive in this global market today. Next, as we mentioned, it will increase, you'll receive greater income and wealth. Remember, when you're extremely valuable, you are extremely marketable anywhere in the world. So it'll be more in demand worldwide. It will also help you to stay grounded and humble. As we go through this process of increasing our own self-value, then we start to see the world very differently. And this whole rat race and the ego and so on, we start to let go of it more and more and more. And we start to become more and more aware of what is really important. And that also takes great humility in order to start that process and to start that self-discovery. Next, it will give you phenomenal personal fulfillment. As you start achieving these little milestones and all these value-adding activities that you go through, you'll be able to increase in confidence in your own love for yourself, respect for yourself, trust for yourself. And that is a great, great journey to be on as you experience that own fulfillment within. And then lastly, you're able to live your life in your own way. That's true success. Not being someone else's puppet, but being able to live the life that you want to live. Isn't that what we all want? What we all truly want out of life? To live our own life in our own terms, in our own ways. And you'll be able to do that as you increase your value. So, people do not lack the ability to take charge of their lives. We all have that ability. We all have that potential. We have immense, unmarked potential. We don't even know we haven't even yet touched the surface of how much potential we have as human beings. We only lack the belief to do it. Now, what is a belief? A belief is a truth to me. It is not necessarily the truth, but it is a truth to me. It's what I believe. And remember what Henry Ford said, whether you believe you can or whether you believe you can't, either way, you are right. It's what we call the self-fulfilling prophecy. So the reason why people do not make decisions and do not take those leaps and those risks into living the life that they want to live is because they lack belief in themselves and in their own abilities. So remember, as I said, people attract success by the person that they become. So if you will change, everything will change for you. The whole world, the way you see the world, your whole perception, your attitude, your mindset will change. And so what you need to do is that you need to work on a personal vision, which becomes your own guidance system for your life. Example, a personal wealth vision, a vision for your family, for your spiritual life, for your physical life, for your career, whatever the case may be. We need to know, where are we going? Where do we see ourselves in the future in all these different areas of life? And I'm going to explain to you why that is important. And then next, what we need to do is that then that guidance system allows you to avoid the dangers and to see the opportunities and to take advantage of them. Remember, when we lack belief, when we lack the self-confidence to take that leap and chasing our dreams, we start to see all the negatives, and that's when that fear starts to kick in and says, well, you know, if look at that, the political situation isn't that great, or the economical situation isn't that great, or COVID is in your way. What are you going to do? So we say, you know what? You're right. So we don't even try. We don't even make the decision to try. But when we start really putting our plans together and we start saying, this is what I'm going to do, this is how I'm going to do it to get to where I want to be in my life, then we start to not focus on the dangers or the ways that it cannot be done, but we start looking at the ways that it can be done and the opportunities to get what we want out of life. In other words, we are changing, our mindset is changing, our perception is changing. And now we're starting to get that belief, that confidence that this can be done. And therefore we are more inclined to make the decision to just go out and do it. So if you don't make plans for yourself, remember, you will always fit into someone else's plans. So was someone saying something there, or is it just someone that's just come on? Okay, no, okay, great. Great, cool. So make sure that you have plans for your own life. Otherwise, you're always going to be someone else's puppet. You're always going to go and just fit into someone else's plans because you don't know what you're going to be doing with your life. And so you're going to see John over there. Oh, looks like what John is doing is pretty cool. Let me go and let's see if I want to do that. Oh no, you know what? That's not so great. And then we see Patricia on the other side. Oh, cool. Patricia, what she's doing seems really great. Let's go over there. And then I'm just running around like a headless chicken, having no direction in my life, not knowing what I want to be doing with my life. And so I fit into someone else's plans and I can be their puppet to help them achieve their visions. And remember, that's not what we want out of life. We want to be able to live our lives in our own way. So we need to make a plan for our life. There's a wonderful philosophy for life that says that there are only about half a dozen things that make up 80% of the difference. In other words, if we can find what those half a dozen things are, the most important things, then that will make most of the difference in our lives in helping us to achieve what we want to achieve, to getting towards our dreams and our visions and accomplishing our goals. So what we need to do then, therefore, is we need to keep looking of the few things, those half a dozen things that make that 80% of the difference. Once we have found those things, once we know what those things are, we need to manage our time in order to make sure that we dedicate our time into accomplishing those things and pursuing those things. Because that is the best kept secret of the rich. They know how to use their time effectively. The reason why we aren't able to focus on the most important things in our lives is because firstly, we haven't planned our lives. And then secondly, because we're not prioritizing, we're not making sure that we're doing those important things. So we need to make sure that we prioritize in doing the most important things. And then we spend our time doing those things, as I mentioned. So here is why people do not do well then. So total opposite of what I've been discussing is that they major in minor things. In other words, they are too busy being busy. And so often we'll go around and we'll ask people, and people might come and ask me, hi, Raynor, how you doing? Sure, I'm busy. Hey, busy, 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 busy. Because you know what? It makes us feel important. It makes us feel good. When people think that we are busy, then hopefully we're giving that illusion that we are important because we're busy, busy, busy. But the question is what you're busy about really that important? Or are you majoring in minor things? Because what happens is, yes, you might be busy, but when you look back on the day, how much have you really accomplished? How often does it happen when we look back in our day and we say, you know what? I haven't actually done that much. I haven't gotten that much closer to my dreams or what I really want out of life. And that's because we are not focusing on the important things. We are just wasting our time. We are just doing the things, spending too much time on things that do not matter and too little time on the things that do. So let me put this into perspective. Let's say, for instance, there's a person who over the past 10 years has spent 2,000 hours binge watching Netflix and 2 hours reading a good book. And she complains that her life is not working out too well for her. Well, why do you think that is? Remember, this is what we call the equation of life. We need, if we are not getting closer to our dreams, perhaps we need to change our equation. Perhaps we need to change how we are spending our time. Are we spending our time just wasting it on the things that do not matter, like binge watching Netflix or Big Brother or whatever the case may be? Or are we spending time developing ourselves, investing in ourselves, doing the things that matter, discovering what is important, and then focusing our time on those things? Because all you have to do, if we haven't got our equation right, we need to change the equation of our lives. over some sustained period, and your life can change, your income can change, and your value can change. Because if you are spending 2,000 hours doing the wrong things, you're not going to get closer to where you want in your life. You need to change. And instead, imagine if that equation was different, where that person had spent 2,000 hours reading a good book and just 2 hours watching Netflix. Do you think she'd be a lot closer to her dreams? Do you think she'd be a lot happier with how she is living her life? Of course she would. So if we are not closer to our dreams, if we're not doing the things that are important, perhaps we need to rethink how we are spending our time, and we need to change that equation of our lives. So, as I've mentioned, each person's vision is the major factor in how their life works out. As we remember, energy flows where attention goes. In other words, wherever I see myself, that's where my attention, that's where my energy, that's where my behavior, that's where my action goes. But so often, and most people in life, and this is the scary thing, so most people in life do not have a vision for their lives. They do not know where they are going. They do not have this dream and this plan for where they see themselves in the future. And so where do you think they are going if they don't have this vision? Well, they're going nowhere. They're just drifting aimlessly in life. And this is what happens, is that in order to get to our vision, we are all put in the same situations, aren't we, in life? We are all here in the world currently in this pandemic. We have no control over that, do we? So is there a question? So I thought I heard someone. My apologies. We all are in the same situation where we see ourselves at the moment. We're all in this pandemic. We are wherever we may be. Whether it's the political situation, economical situation, we all have that situation that we find ourselves in. But we have no control over that. All of these things and the way that we have, what we have and the way that the world is currently is basically the canvas that we have to create our vision and to roll out our vision and to live our vision. We are all in the same boat. And we all have the same wind that is directing that boat. But the difference is how we set the sail. We cannot change the direction of the wind. We cannot change the situation that we are in. We are in this pandemic. There's nothing we can do about it. We have no control over that. And we can worry and waste our time worrying about those things that we have no control over. Whether it's the political situation, the economical situation, whether it's the circumstances that we find ourselves in, the challenges that we might be facing, whatever it might be. We have no control over those external things. We have control of how we set our sail, how we put our plan together to accomplish our vision. So what we need to do is we need to learn to set an extraordinary sail, and it will have a radical impact on your life. Stop worrying about all those things that you have no control over, and start looking at what you can do and what you do have control over. And then you'll see that you will start, and your boat essentially will take you where you need to go as you set your sail according to the wind, according to the circumstances that you find yourself in. So how do we then go about developing this vision? Well, the first step is that we need to use our minds to think and process ideas and information. Only humans have this guidance system, have this ability to process and think and to create these ideas and to imagine and to dream. So we need to do that. How do we do that? Well, first of all, I'd like to discuss what we call the thoughtless society. And this is a huge problem and why we really struggle in creating visions for our lives. It's because in the world today, we find so much knowledge, but not quite enough wisdom. Now, does anyone know how would you describe wisdom? What would your description of wisdom be? Maybe I can start picking on some people here. Patrick, how would you describe wisdom? What would your description of wisdom be?
In fact, I was tapping it. I think wisdom is a knowledge you have applied.
Okay, great. So it's that application of the knowledge that you get, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So what we're talking about in the world today, we have so many people, and thank you for that, Patrick. We have so many people with a lot of knowledge, but not enough wisdom. In other words, they are not applying that knowledge effectively enough in the world today. We see so many people, well-educated people, but yet we see people doing silly things. Think about the people that we have in leadership positions right now, currently, and making the decisions about this pandemic. So many people are looking at them and saying, why are they making these decisions? It makes no sense. But they have a lot of knowledge. They've required a lot of education, but they do not have enough wisdom. They do not know how to apply that education. One of the best descriptions I've heard of wisdom is that knowledge, and the difference between knowledge and wisdom. Knowledge is knowing that a tomato is a fruit. Wisdom is knowing not to put it into a fruit salad. And I think that just explains that brilliantly. And then also, we have a lot of information. We can get information anywhere in the world today. We have Google. We have just zillions and zillions of gigabytes of information, of terabytes and so on, of information that goes around the world every single day. There's so much information, but there's not enough awareness and an ability to be honest with yourself and to see things for what they really are. And so we're creating this thoughtless society. And let me tell you why I say we're creating this thoughtless society. The word theist, does anyone know what the word theist in the English language, what does that word mean? You can just unmute quickly and just tell me your answer. What does the word theist mean?
Hi, Reno.
Yes, Heidi.
So Google says.
Our friend Google there, you see, easy information, right? To get that information, yes?
So the noun is a person who believes in the existence of a god or gods, specifically of a creator who intervenes in the universe.
Okay, thanks, Heidi, or should I say Google? Okay, good. So in essence, it's a believer. Great. Okay. Now we place an A in front of the word theist. It now becomes atheist. And that means the opposite of a believer, a non-believer. Okay. So the word muse then in the English language means, Heidi, do you want to Google that please for us? Or if anyone else knows what the word muse means?
Reno?
Yes, Patrick.
I know amuse. So,
you know amuse, okay?
Yes. In French, amuse is not to joke with something. Is amusing. Okay. Yes.
Yeah.
So I think so. The opposite of muse, I think so.
Okay, so it's the opposite of amuse, exactly. Okay, so using the same pattern that I explained about theist and atheist. Yes, okay. So muse then means to think or to ponder. Thank you, Patrick.
Yeah.
So it means to think, to ponder. But you place an A in front of it and it becomes exactly what Patrick mentioned. It becomes amuse. And that means to be entertained. What you find is many people in the world today, they want to be amused. They don't want to have to think. They want to just be able to push on an app and to allow that app to think for us. Or what, some people even have apps to help them decide what to wear today. We don't want to think. We want to be amused. And what happens is because we do not think, we start creating a thoughtless society. And that's when people start to voting in presidents like Donald Trump and so on and so forth. We've created this thoughtless society, this inability to become aware and to start to really understand what is really important in our lives. and what do we really want, and to create visions and plans to achieve those visions. So this is a huge obstacle that we face in being able to create visions in our lives. The second step to developing a vision. So the first one is we need to use our minds, we need to think. Next, we need to learn from our PE, meaning our personal experiences. That's a wonderful way to learn from our own failures, our own mistakes, the things and situations that we have been through. That's what life is all about. It's about learning and then unlearning as we become more aware of better ways to do things, and then relearning. For instance, and that's consistently throughout life. For instance, I might learn a certain way to bake a cake, but then through continually learning and becoming more aware, maybe reading different cookbooks, whatever the case may be, I start to see better ways and more effective ways to bake that cake. So I unlearn the old way of baking that cake and I relearn the new way. That's how we grow. That's how we learn from our own personal experiences. We all know the story of Thomas Edison when he was asked by the reporter, oh, you failed 999 times before you created the light bulb. And his response was, I didn't fail 999 times. I learned 999 ways on how not to make the light bulb. That's what he did. He learned from his personal experiences, from his mistakes, from the failures that perhaps he faced. I've always said that our failures are the stepping stones to success, as long as we are willing to learn from that. So that's the second point, to learn from our personal experience. Erwin G. Hall said, an open mind is the beginning of self-discovery and growth. We can't learn anything new until we can admit that we don't already know everything. That's where that humility and so on comes in, and remaining grounded comes in as we want to increase our value. We need to know that we do not know everything. So we need to be open to learning from whoever. We need to, for instance, and it doesn't matter how old, how young, or whatever the case may be, we can learn from anyone if we are open to that. So many of us, of the older generations, we learn from our children about how to use technology. They've just got this natural gift for it, natural knack for it. We need to be open to learning, and that requires to be humble and to admit to ourselves that we don't know everything. So one way to learn is to do it right. One way to learn to do it right, is to do it wrong, as I mentioned. Now the key is to not let it take too long. So if we have been doing it wrong for 10 years, I don't recommend that we take another 10 years just to prove your point that you know what I'm doing is wrong. I just needed to prove that point. What I mean is that if you know that you've been doing the wrong thing for a long time, you need to change that now. Albert Einstein said the height of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting to get a different result. So if we're not getting the results that we need and we require, well, then we need to make sure that we learn from that mistake and that we change it up and think differently and think out of the box, as many people say. The next step in developing our vision is we can learn from other people's experiences, from their mistakes, from their successes. So learn from other people. Some people might have done what you want to do already, and they've succeeded and they've made a success of their life with the same dream that perhaps you have. Learn from that. Use them as mentors. There's nothing wrong with that. It's a wonderful way to help you to develop and to plan that vision. And then lastly, requires truth. Now, what do I mean by that? Kalindi Yee said, when a person gains knowledge through the observation of his truth, his view of the world changes. This is where that awareness comes in, being able to see things for what they truly, really are, being able to be brutally honest with myself, and being able to admit that there are certain things that I need to change about myself. and being able to be aware of what my strengths are and accepting that and loving that about myself. But not only that, being able to accept my imperfections, my flaws, my weaknesses. There's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. And what that enables us, it gives us the power, it gives us the ability, it gives us the opportunity to change that in the future, to go and make that change happen so that we can achieve the dreams that we want in our lives. Remember, the problem with most people, however, is that they are too busy being busy to discover or develop their own personal vision, a guidance system that will help them to change and shape their lives. As a result, people are controlled by those circumstances, the things that we have no control of, and therefore just drift upon the ocean of life, hoping for a better wind. And they will hope for that for the rest of their lives. They will spend and waste their lives hoping for things to change, when the power for that change lies within themselves. So John C. Maxwell said, most people would rather change their circumstances to improve their lives, when instead they need to change themselves in order to change and improve their circumstances. Mahatma Gandhi said, be the change you want to see in the world. Don't hope for that change to happen. Oh, once the government changes, then I'll change. Once my boss changes, then I'll change. Once my spouse changes, then I'll change. You'll wait forever. You need to change yourself, and then you'll see that everything around you will start to change too, because your perception, your attitude, your mindset, yourself has changed. Remember the DAPP, which is our ultimate success formula, where we say, in order to be successful, to gain our visions, to achieve our visions, we need to be disciplined. We need to put our vision into action. Otherwise, it's just a dream. We need to persist, and we need to be patient. We need to work towards that vision day by day by day. And when we do have those shortcomings, when we do fall backwards, when we do have those days where we feel like, you know what, I just can't do this, we need to push beyond that and be patient with ourselves and be patient with the circumstances that we may find ourselves in. But we need to be persistent, because persistence is what will get us to the end of the road, to the top of our ladders. Plugging away step by step by step. Doesn't matter how big, how small that step is. Progress is progress, no matter how big, no matter how small. Persistence is key to the success of our visions. This is it. The quick fix. Everybody wants to know what the quick fix is. Do you guys want to know what the quick fix is? It's to understand that there is no quick fix. Rome wasn't built in a day. Your vision will not be built in a day either. You need to be willing, and you need to come to the realization that you're going to have to work damn hard to achieve what you want in your life, to achieve that vision. If you're truly passionate about it, you'll do whatever it takes to get that. If you're not passionate enough, if you're not willing to put in the work, to put in the time, to put in the energy, then it is not big enough. You need to scrap that idea and really think hard, think bigger, aim higher, do something that stirs your blood to action. And that's what is going to make the difference. Then you don't need to worry about the quick fixes. There's no such thing. Get that out of your mind and know that you have to be willing to work to get what you want out of life. So my friends, don't wait. Take charge now. Don't let the fear, don't let the lack of self-belief stand in the way of your dreams. Go out and get it. You can, and I know that you will, if you apply these principles that we've discussed today. I promise you that. Are there any questions about what we have discussed today? And thank you so much for your time. I hope you've found it beneficial. I hope you've just learned perhaps just one thing. If you've learned just one thing, then I know that it has been worth your time, and I'm grateful for your time. Are there any questions before we close?
People, please feel free just to unmute yourself and ask any questions. If you don't want to speak, you can type in the chat box. If you have any questions, we'll give you a couple of minutes in which to look at that. And then we'll close the webinar or the webcast. So please ask your questions now if you have any.
Okay, Reno.
Reno.
Yes. Oh, sorry.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead, please.
Yeah, there we go. Well done, Patrick. Ladies first. Always the gentleman.
Okay. I just want to pick your mind. So can our vision be equated to our purpose? Is it the same thing?
Okay, so a purpose is what we want to do with our lives, isn't it? It's why we are here on this earth, right? And definitely our purpose needs to be aligned to our vision. But remember, a vision is where we see ourselves with our spiritual life, our physical life, our careers, our families, and so on. Where do we see ourselves in the future? And we always look at that. And when we create a vision for our lives, we always look at about 3 years. We don't like to look 10 years and so on, like people used to advise us. We look at about 3 years in the future. And the reason for that is that, as I said, things are changing. The world is changing so often, and things can change before we get to those 3 years. It can change so quickly. So think about, where do I see myself in 3 years with my family, with my career, with my education, with all my intellect, whatever the case may be. And then what are the plans that I need to do in order to achieve that? And that purpose, our life, should fit into those plans for the vision that we have of our lives.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah. Does that answer your question, Amma?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Reno,
Patrick,
I just want to say the presentation was awesome. It's just that. Thank you.
Thank you, my brother. I appreciate that. Thank you. Okay. Well, maybe other people are thinking of questions. I'd just like to mention again our MCA Executive Club, which we have mentioned before. This is an online platform that we've developed where you'll be able, it's a personal and leadership development platform that we've developed now, where you'll have access to daily and weekly videos from our wonderful, amazing coaches. So daily videos of things we want to share, nuggets of wisdom, principles that you have perhaps learned on the training programs on the Executive Club, or principles and lessons that you might be learning in the future. So it's laying that foundation. And then those weekly training videos, which will just go into a bit more insight of the principles that we've shared during that week. You'll also have access to monthly live webinars from our awesome coaches from around the world. So it's monthly live webinar or webcast training, as we need to call it now, and where you'll be able to receive wonderful leadership training from some of the best coaches from around the world. And not only that, you can also watch the past webinars, and you can watch these webinars as many times as you like. You'll also have access to a vast leadership library from leaders from around the world, where they post videos, articles, quotes, podcasts, all sorts of different content where you can learn and grow all this wonderful knowledge from leadership experts and gurus from around the world. And then lastly, you'll also have access to our amazing MCA Training International training programs, all based online, meaning that you can access it from anywhere and at any time, because you can access it on your laptops, on your smartphones, on your tablets, all those sorts of devices as well. So this is something that we're very, very excited about. So just to, if you'd like some information on that, please in the chat box, just type in your email address, and we'll make sure that we send some more information to you. We can do a live presentation to you as well on what the platform looks like and how it can benefit you in the long run too. Okay. So any other questions?
Reno, thank you very much for an incredible presentation. Well done. Are there any other questions from anyone before we close off the webinar? Anybody like to ask any other questions? you will receive a copy of the webinar. If you just let us know if there's anybody on the platform at the moment who does not want the copy, just put your name in the chat box, please. Otherwise, we'll send it to you automatically. And please, as we said, if any of you are interested in finding out more about MCA Training International or the Executive Club that Reynolds just referred to now, please just let us know. We're more than happy to do an online presentation for you and for your organizations as well. Thank you so much for joining us. Are there any questions prior to us leaving? Any further questions from anybody? Okay, if not, thank you very much for joining us. It's been a pleasure for us to have you with us today. Thank you, Randall, for, as I said, a phenomenal presentation, great words of wisdom, great nuggets of wisdom as well. Please join us for our next webinar with Stefan Lessing, and God bless you all. Take care. Bye.